Yeah, growing up as in an Asian household, like your confidence is shot like almost every day.
Yeah,
Every
for
day,
sure. You think you got like straight A's, you walked in, you're good, and they're like, your
Where's
straight
your
A's is nothing. Your
Where's your
cousin
A
got A
plus?
pluses.
And your cousin got A pluses for the past 5 years. You only got one quarter.
Yeah.
I know.
Hey there, welcome to the Gluten-Free Organic Thoughts podcast, where you are encouraged to express your natural thoughts and views through casual, meaningful conversations that hopefully can lead to learning and understanding new perspectives. To find out more info, visit www.gfothoughts.com. Now, here are your hosts, Michael Wong and Robert Din. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Welcome back to Gluten-Free Organic Thoughts. This week we have a great conversation with Sondy about being Superwoman, doing everything. It's a great convo, and we're going to be splitting up into two parts. So this is going to be part one.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the like button and smash the subscribe button. And if you're listening to either Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, please don't forget to subscribe. And hopefully you enjoy part one. Thank you.
Easy. Hey everyone, welcome back to Gluten-Free Organic Thoughts. I'm Robert Din, one of your co-hosts. Today we have Sondy Mok here with us to discuss managing motherhood, careers, and work-life balance. So it should be interesting. And as always, we have our other co-host, Michael Wong.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another great episode. Sondy, welcome. Appreciate your time. I know you're busy, especially taking your Saturday with us. So first things first, what are you drinking?
Thanks, Mike. Well, glad to be here. And what I'm drinking is just water. Very boring
come on.
for the
Oh,
day.
Sondy.
I know. But you gotta keep the body hydrated.
All right. So that's fair enough. So I'm back on the East Coast. It is also 2 o'clock for me, but I am drinking my $1 Wawa special. So apparently this whole month,
Wawa coffee.
Wow.
It's not sponsored by Wawa yet. Our podcast, hopefully one day, maybe.
One day, maybe. You shouldn't have mentioned it then. Like we should have held out.
Free
Like
advertising. It's okay.
we should have blurred it until until they get a sponsorship coming.
Right. So what are you drinking, Robert?
For me, I'm also staying hydrated with some sparkling rosé. I have
11
this.
a.m. In the West Coast, right?
Oh, I love being on the West Coast. It's the Donaldson rosé here.
Okay.
It's
well,
good.
you got a rosé all day. That's the
Rosé all
tagline,
day.
right?
Yeah,
That's
I love
true.
it.
No, Rob loves rosé, so we've done some parties rosés.
We've done rosé parties. We've done champagne parties.
Yeah.
I like sparkling wine, and I like rosés. I like reds. I like everything.
It's a good way. It's refreshing, especially in summertime.
Yeah, summertime it's nice.
Yeah.
And you're really close to Napa Valley, so.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. But I mean, how's the weather up there in Jersey?
It's getting chillier. It actually starts feeling more like fall, which I'm excited because I do like the fall weather.
Wait, has the leaves start turning yet?
Yes, it has.
Oh.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've never lived in somewhere where I've seen
All 4 seasons?
4 seasons.
Yeah. So I was born in Florida. It's always summer there, and then moved
It
here.
is.
Here to San Francisco, it's always fall. So
Mhm.
like there's no change.
Yeah, so Sonny lived in Tampa for like the longest period of time. How long
I
you lived there?
did. Well, I was born in Vietnam, and my whole family's Chinese, but we were raised in Vietnam. And then when I was 3, I moved up to Ohio, and I did not know
Ohio.
why they moved
Ohio.
a little Asian girl to Ohio.
There's a lot of Asians in Ohio, believe it or not.
No,
yeah.
not Toledo.
Not Toledo, though.
My
Oh.
backyard was a cornfield, and I was the only Asian in my school, and I was so sad. I was like, "What did they do to me?"
Oh my
And
god.
then I transitioned to Tampa, Florida, and I went to middle school, high school, college there.
Oh,
And that's
nice.
kind of how I met Mike, was down in Tampa.
Yeah. I think I met her husband back then, and what year was that?
What were you doing in
God.
Tampa, Mike?
I was in a coffee shop. Her husband picked me up. Just a pickup line. And,
He picked you up?
yeah,
He
yeah,
picked
yeah,
him up.
yeah.
He's like, "Hey, you ball?"
Yeah, exactly. I think we were at Panera, if I remember correctly.
It was Panera, yeah.
Yeah, it was Panera because I used to study or worked out at a Panera. I had a project in Panera in Tampa at the airport. That's right. Now that I remember, I was working. So this was like in 2013. No, 12.
12,
12.
13, something
12 or
along that
13.
line.
It's been a while now.
It
That's
has.
crazy. Time flies.
Time does fly.
Yeah. So you went to high school there, and then did you end up going to college there?
I did USF.
You went to USF, so she's a Bulls, by the way, Robert.
She's a bull, yeah.
Yeah.
What can I say? I mean, they had one good streak in football, so.
That's true.
There we go.
But yeah, I studied biomedical there, and because I'm Asian and your mom forces you when you're a girl to be a doctor and marry one.
Oh,
So
there
I
we go.
got a degree, but I never went
Fair
towards being a
enough.
doctor.
Wow.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So what'd you do after college then?
Then after college, I went into, well, I decided not to go into the medical field just because I can do it, but it just wasn't for me. And then I went into nursing recruiting and then transitioned into technology recruiting. And that was my career for quite a while.
Wow. So you started
Wow.
nursing recruiting.
I
That's
did.
crazy.
I did. I was pushing like 60 hours a week.
And I heard they're tough, especially for travel nurses recruiting stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's brutal.
Yeah, it's a lot of babysitting at times.
I guess how did you end up deciding to do recruiting in the beginning?
Well, it just kind of fell in my lap because I had a good friend of mine, Christine. She was also working as a nurse recruiter,
Mhm.
and she's just like, "Hey, do you want to do this? It seems like you're good with people. Why don't you just give it a shot?" And I was just like, "Why not? Let me just see what the doors can open to." And so I did it, and I actually became really good at recruiting.
So this is during pre-COVID times. Obviously, you had to be people person to person. Is that what it
This
was?
was like ages ago. It wasn't person to person. It was everything via the phone.
Okay.
And then when I
Mm.
transitioned to technology recruiting, it was more in person to person, but most of the things are handled over the phone.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
And I guess how long did you do nursing recruiting versus technology recruiting for?
Nursing recruiting, I did it for about maybe 3 years. And
Okay.
then technology recruiting, I did it right after nursing. And then even to this day, I still work, as a
Yeah, correct.
technology
Yeah.
recruiter.
So
Mm.
so then at that time, when did you meet Ben? I'm just curious.
I met Ben after I got the job. Actually, we were just friends, but we've known each other for so long. I think I've known
Wait,
him
after nursing recruiting?
during I was a nurse recruiter at that first job, but I've known him for a long time. I was 14 when I knew of him because he
What?
hung out
Wow.
the same crowd, and he's older. He's like 5 years older than me. I
Yeah.
call him my old man.
Yeah.
But he has the same group that worked with me in the restaurants, and I
Gotcha.
actually his ex-girlfriend worked with me in the restaurant.
So the same circle of friends. That's what you're saying.
Same
Yeah.
circle of friends, but we were
Okay.
just friends throughout the whole process, and then we just ended up being together, and
Gotcha.
here we are, married with kids.
Yeah. And then so you were so at that point your relationship hasn't started him yet, right? You're just friends. You're saying. So
Mhm.
when do you, I guess when did you guys start dating? When you started doing technology recruiting at that time?
No, I think it was after half a year of being in my nursing recruiting job, then we started dating because I was trying to hook him up with my girlfriends, and he didn't care for any.
He didn't want any of
Oh,
those.
he didn't want it.
Yeah.
There we go. He was smart. Yeah, he was smart. He saw, he saw what he saw. He knew what he wanted. So
Yeah, I kept introducing to girls, and nothing happened. And then next thing you know, we started hanging out more, and I was like, oh, this
I kinda like
could
him. Yeah,
possibly
yeah,
work.
This
yeah.
could
Yeah.
work.
You've changed.
so you're trying to hook him up.
Yes, I was. I don't know if you knew the story, actually.
No, I did not know the story. This is the crazy part. I'm like, I kind of knew how you guys met, but I did not know the whole background of this. That's
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
All right. So as you progress your career, you decided to. Why did you decide to just jump to technology recruiting? I'm just wondering, what was the jump of that?
Just because I knew technology was a field that was growing, and it's always going to be growing, and there's a lot of opportunity there. So that's why I transitioned to technology recruiting.
Was that a big knowledge gap? Because obviously you had to know like what are you recruiting, like, and you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
coming from a nursing, you kind of had the medical background of it to kind of emphasize that, but now you're going to a whole left field.
Yeah.
It was a big learning curve, but at the end of the day, you're still dealing with people, right? And then the more I talked to people, the more I learned about their skill sets and what it was all about. And it wasn't as hard as I thought it was.
Gotcha.
Do you
And I was just
find
trying to find the needs for people.
that the technical recruiting people like less personable than the nursing people?
It depends on their.
That's true, right?
It all depends, right? Because you have, and I don't want to stereotype by any means, but I came across a lot of maybe back-end developers that are just very to themselves, don't want to be bothered.
You're
That's the
introvert people.
environment
It's
that they're
fine, and
in. Yeah.
it's normal. I mean, I
But
feel
then
like
I have like UI graphic designers who loves to talk to people and just share
That's
their whole
true.
life with people,
that's
right?
true.
So I mean, that of course you can't put people in boxes, but on more of a typical level, that's what
So
I
I
came
guess when it comes to recruiting, right? Like, obviously jargon is one of them. I believe understanding the jargon, the dialect, and then but not only that. Now, when it comes to technology recruiting, like you said, from graphic design, a UX graphic designer to programmer, backend coding, I guess how do you gauge, their personality? Because it's the opposite, and you have your extrovert, your introvert, but sometimes, certain roles may just need certain personality. But obviously the skill set is kind of there. But I mean, I guess my question is that it's hard to judge. How do you know that could be the right fit for that person? Like, like sometimes you can tell because it's very obvious, but sometimes you just can't, especially on over the phone.
Yeah. I think it's just having to have a good conversation with them and really dig and really ask right questions, because even though their skill set might match the position, but their personality might not match the culture of the company or the culture of the team. So it's just asking the right enough questions to get what you need to see if they're a good fit.
Do you have like a checklist that you go through?
Yes, I do. I'm all about checklists.
Were you doing recruiting for like a specific firm, or were you doing it for as a recruiting company? Doing it for
well, I did recruiting for an agency for a bit. That's how I got into technology recruiting. Then I went into more of a corporate field. They were a privately held company in Tampa, and then they got bought out, and now I'm with more of a global company that does technology recruiting as well. But a lot more jobs that I do nowadays is more government contract positions.
Gotcha.
Oh, I see.
I mean, Robert, how's your experience working with a recruiter? I'm just wondering.
It's always horrible, I think.
Yeah, see, that's the reason why I want to bring that up.
That's like the
You just didn't have me.
maybe that's it. It's just you find a lot of bad recruiters. Even in like really good companies, you'll find just pockets of really poor workers that don't get back to you. So like I don't understand like how you're the recruiter and you don't get back to me. Like usually I'm the one that's the bottleneck. But like if you don't get back to me, I feel like that's like really
that's a big no-no, because you want to develop rapport with your candidate, right? Because that's how you develop relationship. But I'll just leave it there.
And well, that's also why I kind of brought that up, because I feel like Robert had a bad experience recruiting and stuff.
I'm sorry, Robert.
No, like it's not one, and that's not just me. It's like I've know a lot of people that are just like, oh man, these recruiters, they don't do anything.
In SF, right? I feel like in SF, they feel like the recruiters there, like, you're probably talking to 5 recruiters, right? They feel like, as a candidate, you're probably talking to 4 or 5 recruiters, and they probably don't feel like, okay, you're not that important. That's, but one role might not work out, but the next role it might. And that's the thing, like you said, Sondy mentioned, I think that relationship, that rapport, in a sense, that kind of builds that. It may not work out today, but tomorrow you never know.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, that's true. But it's really not. A lot of the times, it's not even the position. It's more just the recruiter just doesn't like want to do anything. It might be that there's too many technical people in San Francisco, so then they're just like have too many people to.
Well,
like,
Sean had a good experience with recruiters, and I think he's been using the same recruiter for a while now, I believe.
I don't know if that's how it works.
Like, not the last job that he got, not the recent job that he got, but I mean, in the past, how he went through Levi, that was through a recruiter.
Yeah, no, I've talked to Sean a lot too, and we have the same like, oh, these recruiters are bad. And even like when I was working with when Sean was at Under Armour, I was trying to get a job at Under Armour, and the recruiter just wouldn't like work. Like it's weird that like Sean talked to the hiring manager. And then he's like, oh yeah, send his resume through, and I send my resume in, and the recruiter's like, oh yeah, you're not a fit. And it's like, we've talked to the manager already. Like, I don't understand how it doesn't get through.
Oh, but so now you're talking about a specific recruiter for that company. But I think when I was talking to Sean actually about this, like, because I was looking for a recruiter when I was transitioning my career away from Accenture, and he said that he had some decent experience with one recruiter that helped you look for different companies, right?
That's more an agency recruiter.
Yeah, agencies.
Correct. And I feel like a corporate recruiter versus an agency recruiter is different, though. That's what I'm saying.
That's true.
Because I've been on both sides.
They're on both sides, correct? Yeah. So wait, Robert, did you do an agency recruiter?
I did one going to Google.
Oh,
Yeah.
so that was an agency recruiter.
Hmm.
Okay, and that experience was bad too.
No, they were pretty good. It was just I don't
Yeah,
know.
which
Yeah,
makes sense. I mean,
it's
they're
pretty
supposed to be
good
better, I guess.
because
You know?
they get paid to get your position, right? So,
Yes, they do. They get a commission.
So like the corporate recruiters just like get paid
Yeah, that's true.
Well, it
just to be
depends. So
there.
some corporate recruiter, they get bonuses, right? So if they hit a certain amount of
Oh,
placements, they do get bonus.
I
yeah,
So it
see.
does apply to their KPIs.
yeah,
I see. I
Hmm.
mean, I guess I don't know.
yeah. I've worked. I mean, I've done corporate recruiting as well. Just
You
because,
have?
yeah. For Accenture and actually for PwC right now, actually, because we get bonuses too as well. And so if I bring people in, stuff like that, like, um, it's different for me because I do only entry levels at PwC right now, but then in Accenture I was looking for experienced hires, so that was different because those bonuses were bigger, experienced hires.
Hmm.
But that was my only bonus way in. I get my own bonus, right? Like how else?
Wait,
I
is
mean,
that like is that like the normal the typical like you get a bonus every time you recruit someone in,
it depends though,
or
right?
is
So
it
certain
like
companies set up
actual
differently.
recruiting?
Certain companies are set up with based on referral fees. Certain companies based on actually recruiting. Like, so for example, what the way I do, I guess the way they set up the entry level is that you can get as many entry level people. You won't get that referral, right? Just because they're entry level. But if they stick around for 1 year, you get a bonus. So they have to stick around for 1 year. So especially for entry level, right? And so depends on the firm, I believe. Also, that varies. And Accenture it was just only referral bonus based. But even though I was part of the recruiting program, I wasn't a recruiter at all. And so
Uh,
I purposely look for the experienced hire because, and I just refer them in through the recruiting program process.
I
So
see. I see.
and I participate in events just to meet people. To be honest,
Mm.
so that's a little my way to get around. To be honest, it was easy $10,000 bonuses sometimes.
Yeah, my company does the same thing. It's all just referral though. Like every company I've worked for, it's like, oh, if you have a referral that comes in, you get a little bonus.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Which is nice when you get that referral bonus.
Yeah, but like it's like
that's
half taken out of taxes and stuff. Like it like doesn't feel as much as when you actually get it.
yeah. And I think obviously every company changes all the time. Every 2-3 years depends on the demand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so like so Sandy, so now you're still doing recruiting right now, right?
Yes, I do. Because it's just easy for me.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
And do you still enjoy it?
Um, yes and no. I think I enjoy other things more than recruiting, right? But
Okay,
it's just second nature, so that's why I keep it.
gotcha. So how's it during COVID? Just wondering. Like,
It's actually, well, the company's slowed down quite a bit, but it's picking back up.
gotcha. So nothing really changed for you because everything's over the phone, right? And
Everything's
so
more on the phone, and then now instead of people going on site for interviews, they actually do more Zoom meetings or, Blue Jeans or Teams.
Mm-hmm.
gotcha. So a little bit more lenient, a little bit more casual. So
Yes. So I think moving forward, I think a lot of companies are going towards more of the virtual interview route because they save a lot more money. It makes more sense.
gotcha.
That's
So what's
true.
stopping you from doing your own agency recruiting? I'm just curious.
Because I have so many other businesses I need to attend to. um, so as you know, I have my esthetician background and we
Yes.
opened up our medical day spa not too long ago. And then I also run the beauty brand that I also
Yeah.
own with a partner, the
Yeah.
Microblading pigments.
Yep.
So there's just a lot on my plate.
Yeah.
And then I also run a mentorship development business with my husband.
Yep.
So
hmm
there's quite a bit.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a lot of
So
stuff.
it's four things, and I think that's the top. I guess the summary of that in a sense. She probably does a lot more in the development that we don't know of. Robert,
Oh,
should we know?
Oh my God.
In
Well,
the
we have the
pipeline,
real
we call it.
estate.
We call it in the pipeline.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we have the real estate, and there's a lot of projects that we want to do, but we just are capped on. It's just
Time.
us, right?
Yeah, of course,
Time.
yeah.
So we have to put a lot of them on pause at the
Mm.
moment.
Yeah.
I think I know. I spoke with you on two that we just
Yeah.
have to put a pause on right now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, all right. So let's get to the esthetician part of it. So, how long you been an esthetician?
Esthetician for about 6 years.
So I'm just wondering how'd you just jump into now? So now you just went from nursing recruiting to technology recruiting. How'd you even jump to that?
Well, I always loved the beauty and fashion, but being Asian. My mom told me you can't make money in that. You
Yeah.
gotta do something else. So I was like, okay, fine. But I
I
think
don't know. I see people make nails. They do nails all the time. What are you talking about? You know?
so I just got to a point where I'm like, look, I'm grown. Let me chase
Do you
after
want?
something that I want, and it's a field that I love, and I can spend hours and hours doing it and
Yeah.
really enjoy it. So that's why
So it's a
I
passion
jumped
of
and
you.
got my I got my esthetician degree and started doing a lot of freelance makeup and then makeup for New York Fashion Week.
And is that how you came up with that product with the other two businesses?
Well, after I started doing makeup for a while, my husband Ben was just saying, you can't really scale yourself as big as you want. There are ways that you can do that, but if you take yourself away from the equation, you're always still going to be having to do active work.
Gotcha.
So why don't you look into another route that you can,
Remove
build
yourself from the
something,
equation eventually. Yeah.
yeah, and then take yourself away. So that's when I went into microblading because that's when it was really hot. It was just up and coming. It wasn't as hot as it is now. So I went into microblading, and then you were able to make a lot more money in a short period of time.
Gotcha.
Then I looked at all the inks
So,
that were
so
using
for those people who don't know microblading, can you explain that a little bit? Sorry.
Sure. So microblading is a semi-permanent tattoo that you have on your eyebrows, eyeliner, or even your lips, and it lasts for about 2 to 3 years.
So for Robert, does he need microblading? Can you see it? Does he need it?
Yeah, do I need some, right? Like right
You
here.
don't need it. You have a nice set of brows.
She's just being nice, Robert, by the way.
I know she's very, very nice. It'd be better for your business if you said yes, though.
Yeah.
I like to be honest.
Yeah. So you came up with your own brand. What's the brand called?
Luxe Ink.
Luxe Ink. So how do you spell that? Luxe.
Luxeink. Yeah.
There you go.
Just because I was running across a lot of pigments that didn't sit too well with the skin tones or just faded too quickly. So then I was just like, why not create one of my own that I really like and that I know the quality of it. So that's why I got into the pigment business.
Wow,
That's
how did
awesome.
you even know how to get into that?
Yeah, like
Well,
Like even if I thought about it and I was like, oh yeah, I think
even finding manufacturers is hard, right? Think about it, Robert.
Yeah.
Like quality of ingredients. How do you even trust the source of the ingredients?
Mhm.
So,
it took a lot of work. It took a lot of labor, a lot of research, and my partner has been in the field a lot longer than I was. So she had a lot more connections, and then she knew more about pigments than I did as well. So we collabed together, and then we flew to Korea and looked at different manufacturing plants, different inks, and just what ingredients would work on more of an organic route because a lot of pigments aren't organic.
yeah.
So then it took about maybe a year and a half to 2 years to really come out with that product.
That's
Wow.
crazy. A year and a half, and that's just researching.
yeah.
Test like trial and errors for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
for sure.
I mean, you can just buy a label and slap your logo on it, right? Because
Yeah,
we've
private
seen
labeling.
that.
That's what it's called.
Yeah, private labeling. But then again, you just don't really have the full control over the process and what's really in the ingredients, and that's what we wanted.
And not only that, I think that's from a storytelling standpoint, it's kind of hard. Like, I feel like now you have your own niche in a sense, and then you can dictate your brand better. So I'm sure, as you grew, you learned about branding way more than you expected. But I feel like you have a little bit of marketing background, a little bit, I guess, too, from all the things that you do, because you kind of sold stuff. I mean, think about it. You sold roles, you sold position, and you're a people person. So that helped probably transition into that, to that business, though.
Yes and no. I think you would probably know this. When you're in the trenches, you just got to learn and make a ton of mistakes, and I wasn't afraid to make the mistakes. And I'm the type, I like to plan, but sometimes plan doesn't come into fruition, so you just have to do, and as you do it, then that's when you learn the most. And through building the brand, I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot of strengths that I have, and I learned about strengths that I didn't have that I just need to
Develop.
utilize somebody else for, right? And
That's true. Yeah. So
it's just
how'd
really
you build
figuring
that
yourself
confidence?
out.
I'm curious. Like you're obviously you're definitely confident about your skill set. You're confident. You can tell the way you talk, and like how'd you build that over time? Because I feel like, as in the early 20s, none of us knew the hell we were doing, and
Yeah.
it's hard to build that confidence, and it's hard to build a skill set, and especially like, even though you went to I got an engineering degree. I never did it for it either. But I just, for me, but I wasn't confident enough that okay, what did you do next? I did slowly build that up. Like, how'd you build that? I was wondering, like you have mentorship? Do you have anything like support?
Yeah, so from a confidence standpoint, I appreciate you saying that because I had the worst self-image growing up. I guess being from an Asian family, not to like talk smack about them, but they always tell you, they always compare you to your cousins,
Oh,
right?
of
Oh, you're
course.
not
Oh,
smart
because
Yeah,
of your
yeah.
enough,
friend. Oh,
or
yeah. Oh, of course.
you're
Of
not
course.
pretty enough, or you're not doing well enough. And I'm like, well, what is enough? Tell me what is enough.
It's true.
I was gonna bring that up too because I was like, Mike's talking about confidence, and I was like, yeah, growing up as in an Asian household, like your confidence is shot like almost every day.
Yeah,
Every
for
day,
sure.
daily, daily.
You think you got like straight A's, you walked in, you're good, and they're like, your
Where's
straight
your
A's is nothing. Your
Where's your
cousin
A
got A
plus?
pluses.
And your cousin got A pluses for the past 5 years. You only got 1 quarter.
Yeah.
I know. So no, it's really through a lot of mentorship and reading. I never believed in self-help book before growing up in throughout college, and then once I met my husband, he was the one that really started teaching me, hey, you know what? Read some of these books because it's not just self-help, but it really relates to a lot of life lessons too that you can utilize for yourself or in the future for businesses. So I really took a deep dive in reading a lot and then listening to podcasts. But if I were to choose between podcasts and reading, I would put them both hand in hand. But reading, you always get more of that one-to-one connection with the book to really peel back the layers to, grow yourself.
So if you were to pick one book, what would you read?
Mike, you got really low out of nowhere.
1 hour later.
What did you do?
Yeah,
I did not do anything. Better?
it sounds the same.
Sounds the same. It sounds too low.
It's still low.
So low.
That's kind of weird.
Technical difficulties.
Yes.
Eventually.
Oh yeah. So if you were to recommend a book, right? I mean, first of all, what was the first book that he suggested you should read? Just wondering.
The Five Love Languages.
Oh.
Really? No,
'Cause he-
get out of here.
He wanted me to know his love language so we would have a good relationship.
Oh,
get out of
really?
here.
That's-
Wait. How
wow.
do you bring that up? I'm curious. Hang on.
Because I always liked reading. I just never read, self-development books. And he was just like, hey, this is more story-like. I think you might enjoy it. And why don't you give it a shot? Kind
Is
of
it the
thing.
one that by what's it called Chapman, I believe? I forgot.
Yeah, it's like a purple cover with two couples holding
Yeah, I think
hands
it's Chapman.
walking on the
I
beach.
think I know what you're talking about. I actually never read that book, but I know which book you're talking about. Though.
I don't think I've read it, but I've seen
I heard of it.
I've seen like
multiple people.
synopsises of it and stuff.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
actually really good.
It's really good,
That's
yeah.
one of the first book that really got me into reading self-development books.
Got it. So, but then now, I mean, so that was the first book he suggested. So now, do you have a favorite book that you would like tend to go back and read, just because you feel like this got you through a lot?
There's
Maybe
so many. It's so tough.
How about one book that's made this huge impact?
Huge impact on me. It's probably gonna be What Do You Say When You Talk to Yourself?
I never heard that. By
Yeah,
who? Do you know?
I will have to pull it up.
Huh.
What do you
Because I
say
think
when you
so
talk
I
to
actually,
yourself?
yeah, I actually haven't. So, what is that book about? Just wondering, just curious. We won't take too much
So
time.
the book is actually by a PhD person, Chad Humsutter, but I liked it because it really peels back the layers of different. I guess it talks about like people have different things, right? Some people are excusitis, so they make a lot of excuses for everything. Some people are perfectionists, where I was guilty too, or some people are perfectionists that needs everything planned out before they can make a move, right? So there's lots of various chapters and different techniques, and it talks about how you can reverse negative programming that you've had through the years. And I grew up with negative programming without really knowing that I had that through families or just in general. And it talks about you can change all that. So that book really helped me start moving in a different direction and start positive speaking to myself, which sounds crazy that you want positive affirmations all the
Got
time.
it. Got it. So, is this book here? I just sent you the link. Okay, I think it's this one. Okay.
Yeah, I found it too. Yeah, I found that too. That like when I talk to myself, like it's like self-talk. It's like always like I'm the worst. I'm always so bad. And then going through like some therapy and stuff, and you talk to people, and then they're just like, why do you say this about yourself? Like, you should be looking at more positive things, and it gives you a better outlook on where you're going.
Yeah, it's crazy how what difference it is because the only person that talks to you the most is yourself. Which I never knew that. You know, I thought it was just people that you surround yourself with, but when you really sit down to think about it, you are the only person that talks to yourself all the time.
That's
Like,
true.
You're
you know,
always
How
your
do you
toughest critic.
so
Like,
how'd you
absolutely.
quiet the noise around you? I'm just wondering, how did you quiet the noise around you? As you
Um,
going through your career, as you know evolve, like how did you end up quieting the noise around you to build that?
I learned who to listen to and who not to listen to, because there are some people that will just have opinions, but they're not going to pay your bills at the end of the day. So I learned to
mm,
listen to people who have fruits on their trees and people who have what I'm chasing after, and those are the people's opinions that matters the most to me.
Hmm,
Because I have a huge family, I have a lot of friends. Not saying that their opinions aren't great. I value their opinions on other things,
yep,
but when it comes to businesses, I tend to listen to people who've been a little bit further than I am and have the business that I want, the structure that I want. And that's how I was able to kind of quiet the noises, is learning who to listen to, which was really hard for me.
mm,
gotcha. I feel. I still feel like I struggle with that sometimes because it's kind of hard. Like,
Hmm.
um, especially also is when you're younger, you don't know any better, and
Hmm.
you feel like everybody's successful, right? And it's kind of hard to tell the difference, especially if you don't have that awareness.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Uh,
Well, it's tough too because society today, we look for other people's opinions, right? Like we read ratings on Google,
oh,
we
that's true.
read
The
reviews on
reviews,
Yelp,
yeah,
before we buy anything or go anywhere to eat. But
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to business, you can't look for other people's opinions because that might hold you back.
gotcha. And so now, do you? I guess did you end up finding a mentor along the way, or did you just went along with it? Like, I'm just wondering.
For which business?
Anything, anything in general, life in general, any
Life in general,
business,
yeah. So I do have great mentors in my life. When it comes to life decisions or even business decisions, I go to them and bounce things back off of them. And I feel like everyone should at least have a mentor in their life. And it's different between work mentor and business mentor. Work mentor, I always feel yes, they're gonna help you in the work career field, but they can't teach you everything that they know because then their job will be in jeopardy, right? They're always going to have to hold just a little bit back.
gotcha.
Um, but when it
You're
comes
talking about from a professional career level, like okay, okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, but when it comes to business, if you find the right business mentor and you both have a vested interest in one another, then
Mhm.
they want you to succeed. So they're going to teach you everything that they know because when you succeed, then they can also succeed as
Of
well.
course,
But
yeah,
you also have to give them back something, right? They can't just give you things
of
without you
course.
giving back something to them.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. And then how about the business mentor? I guess like how'd you end up, I guess, not one finding that person or finding that group, because I feel like that's kind of, I think, a little bit tougher.
Hmm.
Uh, it's because also at the same time you gotta find the people with the right stage of mindset too, because some people just want to give back, and you
Hmm.
might be just be the right time, right place. But I just feel like I think I'm struggling that piece, finding the right mentor from a business perspective. I think from a work perspective, I'm okay. So like, how did you find yours?
Well, through mine is just a lot of business connections,
Mhm.
right? Being in the different businesses that we have and the network that we have. And then um, we were lucky enough to be able to find a couple. Ben and I found a couple that has what we wanted. And then we just chased after them and really try to earn their trust.
Mm.
And
Gotcha.
then through time, and through a lot of relationship building, we were able to earn their trust to be able to teach us things that they know.
That's I see what you're saying. So like it wasn't just overnight. So like
No, it wasn't overnight. And because at the end of the day, mentorship is a word that's so loosely tossed around now. I feel like mentorship takes a lot of trust and time to build. At the beginning, maybe they were just our
so
coaches.
what do you define as mentorship? I just wanted them.
Mentorship for me is somebody that first has what you want, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
can see their successes, but they're willing to give back to you and they're willing to do it. They're willing to give you everything that they can for you to become successful, and there's no holding back, and there has to be a lot of trust in that relationship also. A lot of trust, a lot of I want to say turmoils too, because you have to go through stuff to be able to build a stronger relationship. Nothing
Like
is
the ups and
just butter.
downs.
Yeah,
Ups-
there has.
Oh, your sound went out.
What happened?
Were you guys talking?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh, maybe it's my connection.
Oh
All of a
no.
sudden, everyone went
Quiet. How
quiet.
about
Yeah.
now? Is everyone quiet
Oh,
still?
my thing just said connection was unstable. Yeah, I think I'm back.
Okay.
Man,
All
I
right,
need to
Robert.
get my Wi-Fi set up.
Which part did we cut out on?
It's like the last 5 seconds that you said.
Oh, you're talking about she's from definition mentorship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, for me, a mentorship is being able to, I want to say, everything that my mentor recommends to me, I take it in. Because a lot of times people can say they have a mentor, they have a coach, but whatever they suggest to them, it just goes in one ear out the other, or they're like, okay, and they do something totally opposite. So for a true mentorship and a true mentor-menteeship to work, you have to trust each other through the
So
progression
did
of
you
your
just ask them
relationship.
after the right time? You asked them, "Hey, you want to be my mentor?" Did you just did that, or automatically just became that?
I think it just became that. It's more natural
Got it.
that way. But it's kind of like when you're dating somebody, do you ask them, hey, you want to be my girlfriend? You want to be my
I mean,
boyfriend? Or
sometimes you do
just
have to. Be
sometimes you have
straightforward.
to, but
Sometimes they
You gotta level set
really
the expectation,
they really want that. Sometimes they
or
just
sometimes it
they
just
need to hear
gradually
it.
happens, and then you know that hey, you're gonna be exclusive type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Listen, you gotta level set the expectation sometimes.
So, you were talking about the like relationship where they're giving you as much good advice as they can, uh, but like, what do they get out of that
Yeah.
relationship?
Yeah, well, it's a little bit different for me with my mentors and I because we run a business together, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if my business becomes successful, they also become successful in it. They have a certain percentage that they get from my business.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we have a vested interest in one another, and they have a vested interest to help me succeed.
So this is the mentorship program that you've been working on right now.
Yeah. So the same thing, if you can't just go to Warren Buffett and be like, hey, can you be my mentor? Well, what do you have to give Warren Buffett
Right.
in
That's true,
return, right? You have to give something back in return because
Yeah.
nothing is free. And I don't expect the mentorship to be free. But for us, it just so happened that with our business and our business model, it kind of works that way.
Intertwine really well.
Yeah, it intertwined really well.
I do agree with that. I think every mentorship and relationship is going to be different depending on the person, depending on the business, and also depends on, I guess, how you guys even get together, right? I think gradually that probably evolves. For me, I guess I do have a hard time trusting people, and so I think that part of that I think is a little aspect. It's kind of like I second guess not them myself whether I'm doing the right move, and so I think I had opportunities. I just don't think I pursued it, and maybe because it didn't click, or maybe because I just didn't trust them enough, perhaps. But I think because you keep mentioning trust factor, right, and over and over again, I feel like that's definitely has to do a huge role of at least part of my issue. I think finding the right mentor. So
Yeah, I think, it's tough to trust because I've been burnt before as well, in different relationships. So it's really hard for me to open up to someone and to fully trust them. But at the end of the day, I think, time will be the best, what is that word? The best, time will tell.
yeah,
Time really would really tell someone's personality, who they really are as a person. And because me and my mentors, we've had so many years of working together and so many years to build trust that it's an easier relationship for us. It didn't happen overnight. It's not all of a sudden, hey, you're my mentor. Hey, I trust everything that you're going to tell me. There were barriers, there were walls that were built up, but I think through time and through everything that they
those walls
suggested to
down.
me, yeah, and I took their advice, and our lives became better because of it. Our businesses became better because of it. Then slowly, each brick, each layer started to peel off, and more trust came. And it takes work. Mentorship relationship takes work. Boyfriend girlfriend relationship takes work. Husband and wife relationship takes work. Every relationship will take work.
Yeah. Robert, do you have a mentor in your life right now? I'm just wondering, personally or professionally.
No, I have a lot of friends, and it's usually like when I go into a company or like when I go into something more professional. It's usually I find someone who I like really has a lot of knowledge to share and willing to share. And I've always found people that are willing, that are like open, and just talking to them and getting to know them, and then from there, like you just build a relationship from there. But it's nothing formal. There's nothing.
No, even from a personal perspective, life perspective.
Mm-mm.
I mean, Sandy, do you have a to-go person for a personal life perspective besides Ben?
Life perspective, yes, my mentors. I have two.
Okay. From a personal life, like for just like, but that's
Yeah, if I need
non-biased.
non-biased,
Yeah,
yeah,
like
if I need
okay.
anything, can bounce things off of them.
That's not your mom either, right?
Definitely not my mother. I hope she's not listening to this podcast. Definitely not her.
Sorry, mom.
Love you. No, but she just has opinions.
It's kind of hard because
That's what I
so
find a
trust my-
lot too. Yeah, a lot of
yeah, I
opinions
trust my mom a
out there.
lot, and she's definitely knowledge enough for, and she's gone through so much, and I trust her opinion, but also sometimes, sometimes it's just opinions. You know what I mean?
Yes.
How do you silence that sometimes? Like you don't want to just disappoint them. You know. Also,
Yeah, it's
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 tough.
a tough
It's really
subject.
tough. It's a really
It
tough
is.
sport. Yeah.
But I think I got to a point where my mom knows I don't really listen to her, so it doesn't really matter. But she also sees where I was and who I am now, where we came
Yeah,
from,
of
right?
course.
And the
Yeah.
success that we now have, that she still doesn't trust me to this day. She's trying to give me advice on real estate, and I'm like, calm down, mom. We have a bigger portfolio than you, so we will know when we want to buy. We would, you trust us on that. So she still gives opinions to this day, and I
Yeah.
just have to level set back with her and just be like, hey, thank you for giving me your advice.
Yeah.
I value that.
How do you not break her
but-
heart? That's a question.
But I think we have timing for what we want to do, and we have different. We have already a plan that's already in action. It's just not right now. Maybe it's not the right time for us to do this right now. But I value your opinion, and thank you so much for it.
So you're kind of like easing it.
Ease it in, ease it in. And
See,
sometimes you just have to
if
tell them
I
straight
told
up
that
no.
same exact statement to my mom would call it, that's bullshit, by the way. Sure. And she just ignores me, gets mad at me for the rest of the day. You know?
Oh,
So-
no.
I think you just gotta get over it.
Yeah.
You're like, there's gonna be things that like our parents don't know, just
Correct.
not growing up in this society, not seeing the business the way we see it, not being out there as much, because I've had the same thing where like even just the small things like going to college and figuring out what career you want to get into, right? My parents are all, like the same as yours, where they just wanted me to be a doctor, just go into something medical, and I didn't want to, and I went over to finance. They're like, oh, what are you gonna do in finance? All this stuff, and then now I've gotten to the point where I think where I really felt that I made it, right. I was talking to my dad, and he's been like a manager at a bunch of companies, and I was talking to him about what I was thinking about doing next. And he said something like, you've gotten past where I've gone, so I can't give you any advice. I just trust that you are going to do the right thing. And
nice.
that was like,
That's good.
that was like the first time I've ever
The holy
heard,
moment.
I've ever heard anything like, that I'm doing the right thing. Like that's, it's like, it was like that shining moment where like, oh yeah, maybe I'm past where my parents are.
Yeah.
And their advice is good. It's just you can't just straight up listen to them like we did when we were
Yeah.
little.
But it's also hard too, because you're always going to be a baby to them in their eyes.
Of course.
So
Right.
I know that because I see that with my son.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, well, now you're a mother now, so now you actually had that feeling of how they feel, right?
Yeah.
So you obviously that perspective for you, before you having your son, your perspective is probably a little bit different. But now your mother, you can probably relate to more to it.
Yeah,
So-
in certain aspects, yes.
Yeah. So all right. So going back to your professional life, so obviously, like, as you build this, build your confidence up. You started reading more self-help book in a sense. How do you? I guess sometimes you can read a lot, and it's kind of hard to put that in practice, to be honest.
Mhm.
I think I struggle with it sometimes. I could read or listen to a bunch of audiobooks and stuff, podcasts, but like you said, sometimes it goes one year in, 1 year out. And how do you put that to perspective practice? Like the mindset, right? So for me, I think one book that broke me out it's called Mindset. This is the Psychology of Success by I think Carol Dweck or something like that. I had to shift my mindset, just like you mentioned before earlier. I did the same thing,
Mhm.
but it took me a while to actually practice that because you had to change your habits, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so so for you, like, I'm just wondering, like, how did you just read it? Did you just read and you practice it? Did you like how did you implement some of the stuff? I don't
Well,
know.
everything, I think, anything that I do tend to read, I try to implement in my life.
Right away.
Kind of like the five love languages,
Mhm.
as silly as it is. But it's a great thing that I read it because now I know, like, we know how to communicate with one another when it comes to being loved, because my love language is completely different than his. And
Mm-hmm.
then I read another book called Personality Plus. It talks about different personalities people have, and you have a dominant one, like a one or two top traits, that really defines who you are in a way. And we have different personalities too. So learning how to work with one another, work with each other's strengths and fill in the gaps, that's really helped my relationship with him. And that's also helped a lot of relationships with, people around me, my friends and family,
Mm.
because I know what my mom personality is, right? And I know how to handle her. I know what her love language is. So when I know that she's feeling a little bit unloved for me, I know what to do to pick her back up.
But did you get your mom to read that book too?
No, I just know what type she is.
Oh, okay, got it. I was like, Mom, you need to read.
I would ask you how you got your mom to read that
Well,
book.
there's a test that you can take. So there's a test that you can take. So I just kind of helped her take that test. So I
Oh,
kind of,
really? I'm actually
yeah,
gonna.
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna force this to my mom.
Is this
My
like
mom-
a you're in you're like on a phone call and you're like, oh mom, by the way,
How do you feel
do you
about
like
this?
this or this? And
Yeah,
or was
like
it like
a kind of thing.
or did you like sit there with her and like go through it?
No, it's just on the phone.
Yeah,
I
you're just,
can't get my mom to sit
Sonny
still.
tricked her into it.
Yeah, she like tricked her
Totally
in.
did.
I
But
feel
no, I
like,
think everything you read, you have to put it into work, right? It's just kind of like a doctor reading all the
yeah,
textbooks that he can or she can, but if he never does
you
any
can't
real
implement
type
it.
of
It's
practice,
useless.
yeah, you can't implement it. You can't do the work.
How do
So,
you know what you're reading is like real though? Like how do you know that
Oh, how do you
that's
trust it? You mean
yeah,
how
how
do
do you
you?
trust it?
That's a,
yeah, I think you have to read everything with a grain of salt, right? And then really see if that book is a good fit for you.
and applicable to your
Luckily,
life, right?
yeah, and
Mm.
it applies to where you're at or what you're looking to do, where you're looking to go,
Yeah.
because there's so many good books out there, and there's so many books that you may read right now that you can't really put it into work, or it just doesn't make sense right now. So you have to, pick the right books. And you can do your research. You can listen to podcasts. We've had my mentors have recommended books to me, and my husband and I picked up books from a few podcasts that we listened to, or even books that Mike sent us over and be like, hey, you need to check this out, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And we would read them. And some of them, we would read, it's a good read, has a good content, but we just can't use that content now. So we would
Yeah.
put it back on the shelf. And then there's other ones that where you'd be like, hey, this is actually really good. We can actually put it in this area or put it in this business or put it towards this relationship. And then we would be able to utilize it.
Yes, I feel like sometimes I have read books early during college days where this didn't apply to me, but then I reread the book after college, a couple years after college. I'm like, oh wow, this makes more
Mm-hmm.
sense now, and so you can't always just, but and the reason why I feel like, you even though you still spend time reading it, it may not be helpful today, but at least now you have the background knowledge where to find stuff if ever you come across it. I
Absolutely.
like for example, Power of Habits. I think that book for me was a game changer, because it helped you recognize your own habits, create awareness, and then not only that, how do you mold it over time?
Hmm.
And so I go back to that book probably every other year because it
Okay.
kind of helps you reset. So I got that book to my dad, and let me tell you, it was hard for me to get him to read. One, I had to get in Spanish. Two, and he so I think for me, I had to build a little bit more patience because he never finished high school, right? And so for him, reading, I didn't know reading was a struggle for him in a sense. Even though he read Spanish perfectly well, read newspaper, but for him to sit down, actually read, it was a struggle. And so I told him, start with 5-10 pages and to see how well gradually read it. And so I got him to read that book, but it took him like 2.5 months to read that book. But I told him at the end of the day, did you get anything out of it? And he said no. I'm like, go read it again. So that's when he read it a second time, then he got stuff out of it. So I feel like, there are certain books that are impactful because especially for him, like he just retired, so his habits changed drastically, but he wasn't aware of it, right? He wasn't aware of what changed, and he wasn't aware of how he reacted to those changes. So I really wanted him to be more cognizant because now for the first time in his life, time is not it's not a limited factor for him. He has the time in the world to do what he wants now. And I feel like my biggest worry for my parents was that now they have all this time in the world, what the hell they're going to do with it? And so for us, it's different, right? For us, like we always need more time. So
Why are you
Yeah.
worried about their free time? For
Because
me,
they
like if my parents decided they're just gonna stay at home and just hang out, like okay, like why
because
am
it's
I
kind of
worried?
hard. If you think about it, they worked 7 days a week, 14 hours a day, for 35 years straight, and then suddenly you just went to 100 miles to zero. It's it's scary.
I mean,
Yeah, I
but
think
they
for you, you
figure it
just want
out.
them to have more of like,
Sense of
because if you
purpose.
don't, yeah, if you don't, I think I understand where you're coming from because if they just have all this time and they don't really do anything, they start
Mm-hmm.
to slow down a lot more.
Mental,
And not saying slow down is
mentally.
not good, but they might um,
It's a
age a lot quicker.
correct for me. It's a
Uh,
for me is that my parents always moved 100 miles an hour and then suddenly to into zero. And from a mental state perspective, I kind of want them to keep engaged, right? So some people I read a lot. Some people struggle finding the next chapter of their life, and so that's a scary vision for me in a sense, right? And so
And it's
and
COVID right now, so it's not like they can travel and really live their
my point
life.
exactly.
yeah.
And so my parents loved going to the YMCA before COVID, right? And literally it was like 9 a.m. going to COVID, take some Zumba class with the Hispanic folks, chit chat a little bit, have coffee by noontime. They're done YMCA by 12:30 to go have lunch. Now they couldn't do any of that. So it's kind of like you said, COVID. Mental stress is a real thing, especially with older folks. So yeah,
Totally.
I
that's
don't know.
my big.
For me, it was like my dad stopped working because he had some medical issues, and then he just figured out a way. Like before, he was working like crazy. Like he just like we like never saw him, and then afterwards, he just figured out a way. So that's why I didn't know what you
Yeah.
were going at with that.
I think my mom could figure that out. I think my dad is different. The personality was like,
Mm.
like you said, your parents, right? You know the personality, how they are. So that's why. So I kind of knew, like, I had to push them a little bit more. So
Mm-hmm.
I saw that with my grandpa because my grandpa helped raise me because my mom was a single mom,
mhm.
and he was the one that's always like his calendar was packed with my activities. And then he taught Tai Chi on the weekends. And then when we moved to Florida, all that was kind of gone. I was already grown. I had my own things. I can drive things, like I can drive places myself. And he no longer had to take care of me. And then
Mm-hmm.
he no longer had the Tai Chi classes where he taught. So I can saw him starting to slow down a lot more and age a lot more because he just sat on the couch and he didn't really have a sense of purpose. He didn't have,
Mm.
Yeah,
things that he was looking forward to or becoming more active. And his body just started to
age faster.
age a lot faster. And
Yeah,
it broke my heart. Like looking back, I probably would have maybe wanted him to get involved in different activities so he can
yeah,
keep his health up.
Interesting.
yeah. I don't. But before diving into that, let's go back to our original topic. But anyway, no, but I think it's a good topic to talk about. But it kind of correlates, right? So,
Yeah, because
um,
it's kind of like your mind, right? You always want to
yeah,
keep in yourself, you always want to keep growing because when you're not growing, you're kind
yeah.
of dying in a
Yeah.
way.
So now that no, so in your career, right? Did you ever envision, I guess, as you grew, where you are today, did you ever envision that, wow, I gotta keep learning, or like, oh, I learned one thing, I'm good. Like, did you ever envision that you where you are today, or did you envision it differently? I'm just wondering, like, what did you envision when you're younger, when you're like 23, 24?
I think it's quite different because I didn't expect myself to be such an entrepreneur. Maybe because my mom always told me that, or my family told me I wasn't smart enough to become an entrepreneur. So I saw my life as a different route. I always thought that I would have just a job and then be like a housewife and then be a stay-at-home mom. And then right after I had my kid, and I was just like, no, I can't be a stay-at-home mom. Bless all the stay-at-home moms out there. I give them so much kudos and so much credit, but that's not me. I just lost my definite of purpose and I
Right.
lost my identity. So I never wanted to do that. And I just got very depressed at a period of time. And I was like, I don't want to go through that. So that's why I keep myself so busy. And we have businesses because we wanted a purpose in life, something for me to chase after and really, dig into.
Gotcha. So now, so right now, as you embody, I guess, I know, having one kid, and then not only that, trying to juggle, the business and juggling, with the recruiting side things. Like, how do you, I guess we can come back to that. How do you allocate the time from a business perspective? Like, how do you allocate certain time slot? Let's not talk
Sure.
about personal life yet. Let's
Yeah.
keep that aside. Just
Mm-hmm.
wonder, how do you juggle that? I
So
struggle with that sometimes, to be honest.
So I feel like nobody can give everything 100% all the time. But the times that I do allocate to that business or to my job, that specific time, that's when I give it
You have
100%.
like a board back behind you, like, hey, this much time you
I
allocate.
have I have a calendar. Everything's ran on my calendar. So, for my job, I have the time that I allocate for my job. These are the hours I have for my job. And then when that goes off, the time's done, I have time allocated to my businesses, and those are that specific time frame, that 2, 3 hours that day or 2 hours that day for my business, I give it 100%. Nothing else can distract me. And then, when I have time to play with my son, that's the time that I give my son 100% my attention, and I'll keep my phone away. I'm not on social media, or I don't keep myself distracted so he can get all of mommy time. So I had to learn how to very compartmentalize things.
That's a good way to put it because you have to tunnel vision. Sometimes multitasking just doesn't work, and I realize
Hmm.
that I'm getting older. For certain things, you just cannot multitask.
Yeah. Well, I was never that type of person. I was never as structured as I am today because I'm all over the place. I'm the type of person that I would always forget things, right? But I think I had to learn and read a lot. And it wasn't a strength of mine. And I just had to learn these habits. And actually, talk about habit books. Atomic Habits is a good book for it.
Actually, funny thing is, I have that next to me. It's my next read. I have a bunch of book lined up. Actually, this is actually
Yeah.
this is my next.
Great book. I think I read it twice, and it really helped me build better habits, and it broke it down in more simpler form for me. And that's why now I'm a little bit more structured in certain areas. Like when we go on vacation, I'm very structured. I have Excel spreadsheets for everything, like all the trips that I went on.
So
Um,
you became a planner.
my day to day is very based off my calendar because I want to make sure every hour that I have is being utilized in the right way. Otherwise, because if you don't tell time where to go, time will just go,
Flows
Yeah,
by.
right?
Flows
that's
by.
true.
So I have to be very strategic about that, especially when I have a full plate of everything that's going on.
So see, for me though, I had to learn to go with the flow sometimes. But I used to be very on point and plan everything. I,
Yeah.
so like, how do you balance
Wait,
that?
you're saying more like more before than now,
No, no,
Mike?
no. So no, now. So I mean to say now, I'm more like free flow a little bit more now. Like for example,
Oh,
so for example,
wow.
oh, I
Okay.
want to fly to
Really?
San Francisco.
Really, Mike? Oh, okay.
Mike
Before,
Free Flow.
Yeah.
what do you mean? Okay, come on. Let's be honest. How many times I flew in San Francisco last minute?
Yeah, but
That's
that's
different.
different. Like, still, once you got here, we had to go. We had to go.
Yes, so, yes, the
Once
plan.
you're
Yes.
here, you're like, all right, it's time to go. We gotta get going. And I'm like, Mike,
I'm,
just relax a little bit. We can take some
I'm trying
time.
to be better at it. You know, it's hard. So like, how do you? So now, Sonny, going back to how do you turn that off switch then for you?
It was you just have to learn how to turn it off. Um, and when I'm with my son, or when I'm hanging out with my husband, if it's not business related, we just have to learn to turn it off and just really spend time with one another.
Mm.
Because when you don't do that, and you just let social media get in the way, you're missing out on a lot of moments in life. Now, my husband and I is a little bit different because we have businesses together. So every time we're together alone doing date nights, we will always talk about business or we talk about the future. But that's just us because it's something that we like,
It
right? And
works.
we
It
do
works.
have other topics that
That's
we
your
talk about.
relationship. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we always talk about the future, the next thing, the goals, because that's something that we really enjoy, that motivates us.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Gotcha.
but you just have to learn to turn it off.
Gotcha.
Honestly, if you don't learn to turn it off, you're gonna have so many distractions and you're gonna feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And then when you feel overwhelmed, you're just gonna be a hot mess because I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
um,
I was gonna say, have you been burned out yet? And so,
yeah.
how'd you recognize it and what you do?
I think when I recognized it when I just was very irritable, and I'm not a type of person to be irritable. So when I know
When
I'm
was this?
irritable,
When was this? I'm just curious.
I think it was, so it was right after I had Caleb, and Ben just started his software company. So he was
Uh,
traveling a lot.
so it wasn't really there.
He wasn't really there, and I was taking care of a newborn, and I had two dogs. I have two dogs, two Yorkies that are just nuts. So everywhere I went, grocery shopping, I had to bring Caleb with me. Anytime, cooking by myself and doing all these things by myself, and then working as well. And I just broke down and I couldn't handle it. And I was just
That's
like, I
crazy.
had a conversation with him, and I'm like, look, I'm not in the right mental state. You need to stop traveling a lot more. I know you're trying to provide for the family, because he's in a tough situation too, because he just got his company started. He's trying to build us a future, and I know he had to travel because he needs to put money on the table, right? But he, so I understood that, but it still didn't change my emotions.
So I guess, did you end up getting like external help from your mom or anybody, just because, hey, I need help?
Yes.
I need okay.
So he actually stopped traveling a lot more. He still traveled, but not, flying to LA like 3 times a month.
Yeah, correct.
So he would kind of scale that back. And then we actually brought his mother-in-law to live with us, and she's a godsend, because thankfully for her, we're able to do everything that we do today. And I told her that we kidnapped her and she's never allowed to go back to Florida.
I mean, you
So
guys have a
she's
space
staying with
for
us
it,
for
so
good.
you guys have a big space for her there. So like, you probably just let them in the basement. Hey, this is your whole apartment floor here,
No, so she's been a great addition to the family to help out, and we're very, very blessed for her, because not a lot of people can have help like that.
Yeah, that's true.
That's got to be difficult.
Especially with another one coming along the way. She's
congrats.
just
I was
like,
gonna say that you have another one coming along the way. I was like, congrats.
Oh wow!
Thank you. Yeah.
That's gonna even be. It's gonna be wow. That's and another to the family.
That's got to be hard, right? When you're like at home and like your husband's traveling, and then so you're not allowed to turn off. Like there's no off time.
There's no off time.
Like
the
normally, if there's
24/7.
Yeah, if there's 2 of you, you can like take turns. But then when it's just you, it's kind of hard to turn off.
Yes. So that's when I had that, like, okay, this is a lot for me. I can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had to re-examine, right? And then restructure our calendars and really talk about it and talk things through. And then we were able to, move forward, and everything progressed a lot nicer, I should say.
So now, returning back to the professional career piece of it. So as you build, Luxe Ink, and as you build the mentorship program, I feel like each of the businesses require different skill set, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel overwhelmed, like learning different skill set at the same time, or like I feel like did Luxe Ink goes first, or did the mentorship program went first?
It was mentorship program first, and I think everything that I learned in our mentorship development business really applies in other areas of our lives as well, and building other businesses. So then it kind of correlate hand in hand with one another.
Gotcha.
So then it was mentorship business, then it was Luxe Ink, and then it was the day spa.
Gotcha. And now, with that in with those 3 in mind, like I guess, because I feel like as you're building a brand, and then not only that, you're building a service, and then you're building, like, I mean, the mentorship business is probably mostly relationship, right? I feel like just compartmentalizing each of the segments of business is kind of hard to juggle, right? Do you have any advice for someone who's like, who's just getting started in their life, and they're trying to become an entrepreneur? Like, how will you train your mind to compartmentalize that?
Sure. I think you really have to have structure, and like I said, be very cautious of your time and your calendar. So I wouldn't suggest starting 3 businesses or 4 businesses at once. Don't do that. Start with one, and then build that one up strong enough. And if you want to move on to the second, then have a second. But luckily for me, I've had business partners helping me run the medical day spa, and also with the Luxe Ink brand. So it's just not myself, because at the end of the day,
so you found the right people to work with.
Yeah, I can't be everything to everyone or everything, right? So we utilize each other's strengths. Where my strengths came in, I was able to put into my business, and their strength also played into the business as well. So finding the right partnership is also important. But what we've learned is, because you have so many things to juggle with, and in order to
compartmentalize.
To put
yeah.
I need a drink.
Give me a shot here, please.
In order to put things in different buckets, right? You need to have time frames for each and every single compartment. So let's just say, from 11 to 3 is my time for my microblading ink business. So I would do all the marketing materials. I would plan out, events. I would plan out trade shows. And then right after 3 o'clock ends, I stop that. And then from I would give myself a little break, like a half an hour break. And then from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, it's my, day spa stuff that I need to work on. So then I'll do my day spa stuff, talking to my partners. Hey, what, new products do we need to get in for the spa? How are the hiring going? How are the employees? Do we need to add more? Do we need to scale back? So we would do that. And then then I'll have dinner. And then from maybe like 7 on or 8 on is my mentorship business that I have with my husband, and then we would do all that from that time frame. And then after
That sounds so crazy. Like that's like full schedule. See, Robert, talking about scheduling, let me tell you, my schedule's easy.
and then I know Sunday is family day, so nothing gets in my calendar for Sunday because it's family day for us.
So you block that for personally.
Yeah,
for your...
definitely. You have to have that. You have to have a balance, right?
Yeah.
Did you? So you said you went through, you like learned all this through like your reading and stuff. When I was growing up and my mom was teaching me to like just from school to school, right? Like just to like learn stuff. She would every day I would wake up, go to her business, and then she would have a calendar for me of things to do, right? So I feel like that was that was like very similar, where like you're like compartmentalizing each time frames for everything. I don't know if your parents had the same thing, but I don't know where my parents would have learned this other than like just doing it, whereas we go through and like reading all these books and have to learn all this stuff, right?
Yeah, no, my mom definitely is not the planner.
Yeah, my parents are, because growing up I never saw my parents either.
Yeah.
Like, they were too busy working in the restaurant. So
my mom was a single mom and she worked in restaurants. I barely saw her. And
restaurant business is tough. You don't see them restaurant businesses.
Yeah,
I think my grandpa's maybe more of a structured one, but even in my grandma's somewhat structured, but not to where they would put everything on a calendar and have a schedule. I think, and that wasn't me growing up either. I don't think I am the way that I am now, like being more structured, until I was maybe 26, 27. That's when I started being more structure based.
Interesting. Yeah, that's I don't know, maybe it's just my mom was a teacher, so she had to like she already had that as like part of her schooling and stuff.
The calendar planning part of it.
Yeah. Let's like take a break for a second and move on to our extra MSG section, where we do some funny segments and just like talk about funny stories that happened throughout the week or something. Mike, you want to start?
I can start. All right, I got some funny ones. So I think I got two, but I think you already saw. I think Robert, you already saw one of them, but I'll send the one.
I already saw one. Did you send it to the group? Is that why?
Yeah, I sent it to the group. That's why. It's the vacuum one. It's so good.
Oh, with the baby.
Yeah, the baby.
Oh my goodness.
By the way, you should do that with Caleb, Sandy. Hang on, but
we're
I'll
gonna
show
send you this TikTok video.
Yeah, you can forward that TikTok video to her in the chat.
I don't even know where you sent it. Oh, here, I got it. Let's do forward. Oh, how do I forward on online?
You just right click on the little top right arrow corner on that video. Okay. Yeah.
Nope. You try it. You do it.
I got it. Oh, I see what you're saying. You can't forward.
Yeah.
Hang on. What's my phone at?
Maybe while we're waiting, Sandy, you wanna give us a funny story or meme that you have for the week?
What funny story do I have? I think the only funny story is with my kid. So Caleb recently, he's been really into video games. So he plays on his tablet with Angry Birds and all that stuff. And then he gets really into it. And he's just like, when he can't hit and kill those pigs, he let out, "What the flip, mommy? What the flip?"
He says, "What the flip?"
Is it what the flip? Really?
No. What the flip? And I turned over real quick. I was like, "What did you just say?" He's like, "What the flip?" And I was like, "Where did you learn that from?"
You get it from Ben. That's a Ben thing.
And then next thing you know, I hear my husband like watching a soccer game. He's like, "What the flip?" And I was just like, "Oh my god."
Yep, it's a Ben thing for sure. I was like,
"Oh my goodness."
That's really funny.
Oh man.
So that was it.
I just forwarded that video. Check it out, Sandy.
Oh, let me see. Let me turn off the volume. And then screen share.
So for those who are not watching this on YouTube or on website, it's pretty much
it's
a Roomba.
a
There's
baby that they put on a Roomba, and then her arms are back like she's
It's
relaxing.
like relaxing, strolling around.
What music is on it? Is it like
it's like I'm strolling.
Oh, yeah, rolling.
I forgot the song called. Oh my god, hang on. Oh yeah, the see me
You
rolling.
see
That's
me
what it is. See me rolling.
Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah. I just thought this is pretty funny though. But anyway, talk about another one. Okay, this is the one I wanted to share with you guys that you haven't seen yet. So this is the Reddit post. We're scrolling down, and there's obviously this dad's playing with the kid, and then he's like, the dad sniffs the baby's hair, and the baby just turns around, gives him serious face look with the eyes, and the dad pretends like nothing happened.
Suspicious toddler being suspicious.
It's just funny. The baby, look at the baby reaction. It's just super hilarious. Like just the way he just turns around suddenly, he gives him the eye, and it's happened a couple of times back and forth.
All right, let me see if I can play.
Videos are most hilarious when it's babies or animals.
That's true. You know, they do a lot of stuff you don't expect.
Yeah, you don't expect them. That's what I'm saying. Like their intelligence is just
Different level.
different level. Yeah.
So anything funny happened to you, Robert, this week?
Oh my goodness, for me. Oh, hold on, I'm watching the video now of this baby. All right, yeah. So for me, the funny story is yesterday I went to go on me and my team decided to go out to the pier and just have lunch and this is the first time I've met anybody on my team because I joined during COVID.
Ever, right?
So I've never even met any of these people in person. It's the first time.
Wait, did you have a picture what it looked like? He's walking around.
No, so we do Zoom calls and stuff, but this is the first time in
like.
person of seeing them. Even my boss, I did all my interviews online, never saw them in person. So we went out there. So I rode my electric skateboard out to the pier. I met with them. We left. On the way back, I wiped out. I was on my board going full speed, and then there was the trolley tracks, and then one of the trolley tracks was a little too wide that my wheel didn't fit over it, and it just got stuck in, and then I flew off. My shoulder still hurts. I fell off.
You scrape yourself at all?
Oh yeah, so I have a scrape here. My knee is scraped up completely, and then I lost my wind, and I fell on the ground, and I got up real fast, pulled everything over to
the side,
to a sidewalk or the grassy area, and I just laid down for a minute, and I was like, oh my god. Did your
coworkers see you? I'm just wondering, any of your coworkers saw you?
No, this was after I left them, and it was a little side road. It wasn't the Embarcadero, which is easier to ride on.
I saw you, I just laughed.
Oh man, no, but there was this group of girls who were parking their car, and I was like, oh man, I just wiped out in front of them. I was like, they're the only people on the street that I could see, but I was like, oh my god, it hurt. I was just I need to catch my breath.
Or no?
It was straight. It was just that space. My wheel wouldn't go through it, and I was like, oh man. But afterward, now I'm like, man, I'm hurting in places that I didn't know I had muscles. Right? I move and it'll be
it was a move that you were trying to do because you saw a car full of girls coming out.
That's what it was. I was like, hey girl.
Hey girl, check out what I can do.
I definitely didn't even see them there until after I fell, so it wasn't that. Hey everyone, that was the end of part 1. Hope you enjoyed it. Tune in next week for part 2.
And if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit the like button and smash the subscribe button. And tune in for part 2 at our website at www.gfothoughts.com. All right? See you next week.
Peace.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Gluten-Free Organic Thoughts podcast. As always, we appreciate you. If you are watching us on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this episode, and leave us a comment. If you are listening to us, please leave us your honest review on your preferred podcast listening platform. And as always, you can find us on social media at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at GFOT Thoughts. Drop a comment and give us some feedback. We would love to hear from you. Until next time, see you then.